Hello YouTube, today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make some smooth camera motions for your animations. I had a lot of requests after I released my short film, Hold, how I did the camera movements, so if I just quickly find one for you. Let's turn the audio off. Should have preloaded this. So after this little scene, you'll see a nice smooth camera pan to the right. And I'm going to be showing you a good workflow of how to do these type of pans and in general how I animate cameras in After Effects. So let's jump on in. First of all, I am just going to import some assets from the personal film. So let's grab this one for now. Make sure the layer size is selected. And 2. So what I usually, so this should be, oh, hang on, should be the first scene for our speakers. If I turn everything on. There we go. So that's the scene. We haven't got any characters in it, but that's fine. We don't need them. And then, so this red square area is 920 by 180. So I want to start with that area. This little panel here is going to be a little bit of a transition, which will lead into this scene. And I designed all these scenes to have this line perfectly connected throughout each of them in Illustrator. So the way I do my camera pans is I make a new composition, which I'll just call main. First of all, we will drop in our first composition using that red square. Just going to line it up to the edge, like so. And then we will drop in number 2 as well. I'm just going to roughly eyeball this for now, we can polish it later on. Line it up to the end of the composition. Roughly there. Now what I'm going to do is using the Mount My Graph tool. Let's make a new null, or you can go to Layer, New, Null Object if you don't have Mount My Graph 2. But I highly recommend getting that for the null feature alone, it's pretty good. And I'm just going to call this camera. I'm going to select both of these layers and parent them to the camera. And then we're going to hit position, keyframe, going to come forward to 4 seconds. And we're just going to slide this over until we get this section here nicely on the end. If you hold Command or Control when you're sliding these numbers, it slows down how far it moves. So holding Command will get that nicely to the edge, like so. And we've got this linear motion from scene to scene, which is okay, but if we'd like to have some nice easing in and then out of the camera pan, we're going to have to add in some extra work, which I'm going to show you now. I turn this off. I'm just going to quickly remove this red area. And I'm just going to change the background color of our composition to white, just so it looks nice and clean, basically. Sorry, I've got a cough at the minute, and that's going to be horribly loud for you guys to listen to. So what I'm going to do now, between these 2 keyframes, I'm going to come forward 20 frames and hit a keyframe. And on the end one, I'm going to go back 20 frames and hit a keyframe. Now I'm going to select a keyframe and go into the graph editor. So whilst in here, I'm going to select the end frame and the first frame. I thought you could pull them both down together. Okay, maybe not. So what we're going to do now is, by pulling these down to the bottom, we've adjusted the ease out on this one and the ease in on this one. And the aim for this here right now is to make these lines smoothly connect up to here. At the minute we've got loads of room up the top here, which means we're going to be going fast and we're going to have a weird sort of slow stop, which doesn't look quite right. So what we're going to do is select both these end frames, hold in Alt and Shift. I'm going to knock these across. And we're going to do the same for this one until we can select this point here, connect it to here, and adjust these until we get a nice smooth motion. If we zoom in, we can see there's a bit more. So now that's kind of looking straight. We'll do the same for this one. I'm going to give this a bit more room. Attach this one to the top. Try to smooth these out. If you drag this one out, it will make this bit smoother here. And if we drag this one, it will make it straighter or smoothed. So basically I want to just make it a kind of an S curve. And we'll do the same for the front. Now as you can see, we got this spike here, so we're going to just select all three of these, give it an extra bit of tweaking, like so. Just a wee bit more, get that smoother. So now we got this nice kind of curved S here going into there. This is straight, which means it will be a linear motion, so you get a nice smooth pan, and then it will begin to slow down into the final scene. We'll just do a render. And there you go. As you can see, we have a slow start, a consistent motion throughout the middle, and then it comes to a slow end. Now of course you can adjust these curves however you like. We could really pull them so you had a longer, slower motion here, and then you'd need to add a little bit more frames here. Like so. So then you'd have a really slow start, a bit more acceleration around this point as it picks up to this speed where the consistent motion begins, and then obviously we'd have to rework this part of the graph too, and varied up the curve like so. The key to using the graph editor, I'm in speed graph, by the way, not value graph. The speed graph is to just make nice smooth motions. It's the same for the value graph as well, but obviously if I switch to the value graph now, it looks a little bit different, because you can see the Y position, which is consistently straight because we're not adjusting the Y, we're only adjusting the X position. And again, we've kind of got this S curve but the consistent motion is going diagonally in the value graph, and in the speed graph it goes horizontally, like so. So yeah, this is how I do my cameras. I don't actually use the traditional camera which is built in, because there's so many features which, when you're using flat graphics, I tend to think you don't need, unless you do want the blurs and stuff, but I personally don't like it too much on flat artwork, so I just use Nulls. And you can do the same thing as well. So we've got this camera motion here now. We could then go ahead, hit scale, come forward several frames, and scale inwards. 150. Gonna have to adjust the position as well. So we'll just chuck in a keyframe here and one here. And say we wanted to focus in on the ball. Just zoom that in. We'll go to 240. And we can frame the ball nicely so it sits around here, close to one of the thirds, like so. And I've accidentally added a frame there, so we'll delete that one. And then, because these are linear frames, you'll get this nice zoom in motion with both of the scale and position. That actually doesn't look like it's moving to the left at all at the minute, so what we'll do is we'll make it a bit more extreme for the sake of the tutorial, where you can see it kind of zooms in to the right side of the screen and we can see the ball floating there. So if you select both of these keyframes in the graph editor, we'll select all of this. So this is purple for the position, and we can see the scale is red or green, but we can see the red because we're only moving in actually no, it's because they're joined together. I'm talking nonsense right now. As you can see, once I've clicked easy ease here, we've now got a bit of motion here which we're not going to want, which is due to this section being up here. But After Effects does wiggles occasionally, and that will be to do with the position handles. Because we've got these handles here, they'll create motion. So the best way to stop any wiggles that you don't want in cameras or animations in general is to just come to the frame that's given you an issue, which is clearly in between A and B here. If we select the first one, you can right click and go to toggle hold keyframe, or you can hold Alt and Command or Control and click the keyframe. And what this will do is stop any motion. So as you can see, we've got a consistent flat line across 0, which means we'll have no animation happening between this frame and this frame, which is exactly what we want. So now we can select these, and then we can see the flat here, and we've got this nice dome shape, and we can just adjust these how we want. So say we wanted a very slow pan, which is going to take a while to start, and it's going to speed up, and then we'll make it slow down a bit more. We'll give it a bit more time. Just do a preview of that. And that's why I love the speed graph, because you can control multiple values at the same time with this curve, and you get really smooth results, like so. So then we've got this kind of, let's hit N here, got a nice slow to fast, but then a smooth zoom in, like so. I'll just preview the camera pan itself as well. So as you can see, we've got a nice camera pan from one scene to the next, and then we're going to zoom in on that ball. All of that's looking really smooth. And one more trick I'll show you. If you select all of these keyframes and you decide that this camera pan's too slow, hold Alt, select the last one, and you can scale it. So if we go to about 4 seconds, this shouldn't affect any of our curves. So as you can see, we've still got the curve that we created, only now it's going to happen over a quicker time, over a shorter time, sorry. So like so, you can see the same zoom scroll, sorry, but just shortened. And you could do that to these frames as well, but I'm not going to bother. But there you go. That's how I handle cameras in After Effects when using flat artwork. To be honest, I have never actually used a traditional camera which you can adjust. I know in here you can do all the focal lengths and zooms, and you can choose what type of millimeter camera there is, so you can get really nerdy with these cameras. But to be honest, I'm not very good at photography, so I don't understand a lot of this stuff, and I rarely do depth in my work anyway, so I usually stick to 2D, so I'm not going to get the effects from the different lenses and stuff anyways, so I just use nulls, and for me it's really easy to control and you get really good results. I just quickly mention with the zoom as well, if you just make sure you have continuously rasterize on, and you won't get pixelated artwork. Obviously you can't always do this if you've got effects on certain layers and stuff, so bear that in mind, but that's how I do my camera zoom ins. So if I knew on this one, for example, that I needed to zoom in, I would have designed my artwork at this size, so have it like twice as big as what I actually imported it as, so when it zooms in it still looks perfect. As you can see, I'm getting a bit of distortion around these sort of grain effects and stuff because I didn't design this film to be zoomed in on. Yeah, that's how I handle cameras in After Effects. I hope this was useful for you guys. If you've enjoyed today's tutorial, if you can just give it a like, share it with your friends, or subscribe, any of that would be amazing. I might not be recording anything from now until September as I'm going traveling. So this might be my last tutorial until then, but you never know, I might surprise you with another one. But thank you for all your support, and I will see you when I get around to doing the next one. Cheers guys.